Oh, do you want that cold?
Yeah, ready?
Yep. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. Let me hear you. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day, a day to be seized, yeah. A day I can feel my spirit set me free. Yes, this is the day. It's time to fly higher and higher up in the sky. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day all my dreams come true. Feel the Spirit working its way through. Yes, this is the day. It's time to fly higher and higher up in the sky. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it.
Yeah, woo! All right, welcome. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to West Valley Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Reverend Clyde Goins, the Assistant Minister, and I want to welcome you here on this beautiful Sunday morning. And we've got a lot of stuff going on, so let me just quickly go through a couple of announcements. One, probably really important. All these are really important. Well, women's retreat next weekend coming up. It's the 22nd of February, and they have a lot of really great things in stores. I'm really jealous of all the things that they're doing, but I'm very excited for them. So please join the women's retreat. It's from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. If you have any questions, you can ask Julie or Reverend Karen or Reverend Susan. They all have information about it. The next thing is our Sound Healing Bowl. Did I say Reverend Julie? Oh, Reverend Sue. Zen. Reverend. Yes. These three women up here. Next one is our sound healing meditation with Kay Fontana. That's going to be it's always our fourth Sunday right after service, so please stay and join us for that. And then probably the most important thing is our annual meeting is today. So we are having our annual meeting after service. We need a quorum so that way we can have our meeting. We're going to have it either way, but we need a quorum. We'll have a quorum. Before we start the meeting, we're going to have sign-up sheets back in the back for you to sign in because we need people to sign in for the official meeting. And then we also have copies of the agenda, the copy of last year's minutes, and also the profit and loss report for 2024. So that'll all be available back in the room. So after service, if you can go back there and sign in, pick that information up, go over to Packey Hall, have a couple of snacks, and come back in here. And then we'll go over all of the news about our center. So that is all of our announcements. That's a lot to cover, but there's a lot of great information. There's a lot of energy going on around right now with the board because we have a lot to report out for you guys, and we're really excited about that. So let's get the service started. So we start out by saying our vision statement, so let's say that together. We are a loving, joy-filled community honoring the many paths to God as we learn and live the science of mind principles, and so it is. So just sit back, relax, open up your hearts and minds for the Bradford's beautiful music and Reverend Karen's wonderful message. Thank you.
So just take a deep breath, relax as we move within.
I will make a quiet place within my heart. I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know.
I will make a quiet place within my mind. I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord.
Be still, my soul, be still. Be still, my soul, be still. Be still and know. I will make a quiet place within my life, and I will wait upon the Lord, wait upon the Lord. I will make a quiet place. Right here and now, in that still small place within you, all there is God, flowing into you, through you, and expressing out. Right here and now, that divine intelligence, the beauty, the wonder, the joy, the expression of pure love, that divine intelligence is operating right here within me, right now. And as I declare that for myself, I declare it for each and every one of you. God is operating through each of you. And I know this, and I am grateful for this wonder. As we go within and we listen to what God has to say with us, whether it be through Karen, myself, or anybody else before you, take a moment and listen and go within. For God is all there is. And I am so grateful for the knowingness that God is all there is. And as I acknowledge my oneness with it, I release it into the universal law, knowing that divine word is flowing through you right here and now. And together we say, and so it is. Good morning. This is the book I'm reading from today. It's 365 of Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. However, the font is so small, I had to blow it up. Everything in the universe is a unique individualization and expression of the one thing that is the cause of all things. No two blades of grass are alike. No two grains of sand, no two thumbprints, no two anything are alike, and nothing ever exactly reproduces any other thing. This means that the one ultimate cause is pressing against every individualization flowing through it, him, or her, and that every event in the infinite has an infinite possibility. We have to link all of this
with our everyday actions because we cannot live by theories alone. They must be brought down to earth and applied to our daily life. But it is wonderful to realize that we do not have to imitate. We do not have to complete. All we have to do is be ourselves and realize that the one self, the universal being, expressing itself in us in a very unique way, is absolute and available. This is the secret that every person has with life and with God, that God shall be to each one of us what we are to God. So today, I practice being myself. I think simply and directly from the center of my own being, which is one with the living Spirit. I realize that all the good there is, all the presence there is, all the power there is available and responsive to my acceptance. I enter into faith of believing, the joy of knowing, and the act of living that proclaim the one presence and power in all things. This presence, warm, personal, colorful, responds to me. It's within, around, and through me, and it embraces all things. Today, I accept my partnership with the infinite. Take a moment to digest all that and think and know. All there is God. Thank you.
So we're doing the song today called Everything is Beautiful. Kendra's going to have these lyrics up here, so sing along with us.
Everything is beautiful in its own way, like the starry summer night or snow-covered winter's day. Everybody's beautiful in their own way. Under God's heaven, the world's gonna find a way. There is none so blind as he who will not see. We must not close our minds and let our thoughts be free.
For every hour that passes by, you know the world gets a little older. It's time to realize that beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder.
Everything is beautiful in its own way, like a starry summer night or snow-covered winter's day. Everybody's beautiful in their own way. Under God's heaven, the world's gonna find a way. We shouldn't care about the length of his hair or the color of his skin. Don't worry about what shows from without, but the love that lives within.
We're gonna get it all together. Everything's gonna work out fine. Just take a look on the good side, my friend, and straighten it out in your mind.
Everything is beautiful in its own way, like a starry summer night or snow-covered winter's day. Everybody's beautiful in their own way. Under God's heaven, the world gonna find a way.
right, thank you, Bradford. So everything is beautiful. We want to recognize a beautiful person today. And so if Fred, if you'd come on up, Fred Carroll. So Fred Carroll is one of our board, or has been one of our board members, and he is at the end of his term, and we've kept him on as long as we possibly can, serving on the board. He's not only served on the board, and we call him the historian because he tells us all these facts about the histories of the church and religious science. But also, he's also helped with the maintenance of the building. So he works a lot behind the scenes and helps to make sure that our building is in high functioning order. So it's really, we're acknowledging him for being on the board and appreciating all his love and support for the community. And so we want to acknowledge him today as he steps down from the board. And so we're going to sing our grateful song to him. So if you're okay to rise. And what I'd ask for you to do is put your hands out like this so we can send that loving energy to him as we're singing this song to him.
You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are and all you do is a blessing to the world. You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are and all you do is a blessing to the world, is a blessing to the world, is a blessing to the world.
So I have to share with everybody, we usually give flowers, but we know that Fred wouldn't like the flowers. So the next best thing is a gift certificate to Brothers. So he got a gift certificate to Brothers. So here you go, Fred. Thank you so much for everything that you do.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Well, some things are just more fun than others. That was really fun. He cried a little bit. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here today. It is an important day in the West Valley at the West Valley Center for Spiritual Living because it is the day of our annual meeting, and it is this time of year where it's a unique configuration of events because we sort of bring together and blend the linear business side of doing church with the beautiful invisible side of the spiritual roots. I had that idea that this theme of being rooted, where you can see this majestic tree growing and you see what's visible, but there's so much underground that we can't see that's going on, and that's the spiritual aspect of all things. So I wrote a message specifically so that we might blend the morning message with the meeting that will follow this. You'll have time for a little break in between, and we do, just a reminder, we do need a quorum, so be sure that if you are an engaged part of this community that you stick around. It's the time of year where the ministers take a thorough look at everything that's happened in the past, but the really fun part is it's when we ministers begin to, well, we've been having this chat for a while, but we try to articulate in a very clear way what we see, that vision. We're casting the vision for the new year as well as appreciating what's past. So the title of the message this morning is, How Should We Be? And I really like that as a question, because there's a spiritual practice we have in religious science that's started by Michael Beckwith, who has the sort of famous Agape Church in Southern California in the Los Angeles area. And in the visioning process, we come together to open ourselves for God to deliver to us that highest vision, for that infinite intelligence of the universe to sort of guide us as we're making our planning and trying to do the business side of things. Then it just blends together beautifully. So I found this quote that I took right from the Science of Mind magazine, and it's by a female author named Charlotte Joko Beck, and she said this: "Who knows how we should be? We simply do our best over and over and over." And I love that quote. I think that it says everything, and I especially like that we do it over and over and over. And if we plan to show up and demonstrate our best as we're living our lives, even as we come together in community, it works both on the personal and in the spiritual community as well. What we see is it's a necessary question to ask. So when I look at that from a personal perspective, I say, how should I be? How should I be? How am I interacting with others? How am I alone? You know, I got to be with people, but I have time alone. How am I when I go to the grocery store? How do I show up in my neighborhood? And you begin to see that it's a really big piece of looking at how we choose to live our lives day by day. And it boils down to one thing. The question then for me gets even more personal, and it becomes, where am I called to practice being more than I have been in the past? Where am I being called? Where is my edge of growth? So I've done a really good job in A, B, C, and D, and a whole bunch of alphabet after that. But where now? Because what we know about humanity, about human life, is that we are always becoming. And it's not just human life. I think we could transfer that and see it everywhere in nature, that there is this becomingness of life in the universe that is eternal and ongoing. So it's not so much that we work really hard to achieve a certain goal or get to a certain state and the conditions of our life become a certain thing. It's about being willing to recognize we do things over and over and over because we are in a constant state of becoming. We live in an infinite universe, an intelligence that created this universe to do exactly that. It is the essence of all life, that which created all of life, that kissed us into being, that gave us that breath of life. And in this way, when we recognize that there is only one God, there is only one mind, it is the mind of God, and that mind is present all the time. It is omnipotent, it is all-powerful, and it is all-knowing, and that is a constant giving. And so I like to play in this way. I like to think about, so if something created us, that infinite intelligence, whatever you might call it, I'm real comfortable calling it God or Spirit, then there must have been an intention for us as well as for this planet. And then that gives me a direction to move in my life. It gives me a clean slate of how I look at that question, how do I want to be? Now, as I was writing this message, I kept thinking about a passage from the Course in Miracles. Actually, the funny part of this is that it's taped right now to my door where I walk into the garage to go get in my car so that I'll read it every day. And years ago, when I was a much younger woman, I had that same note. Well, it's not the same note, but I had the same quote taped on my front door when I lived in another state. And the passage says this. I always think of it like it should say Lord in front of it, like Lord, God. But it doesn't. It just says, wait, I forgot. Okay. It says, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say, and to whom? I have carried that in my heart from the first time I read that passage, and it has such meaning for me. And what happens when I ground myself in that quote before I leave the house is that then whatever happens, whatever interesting situations I might find myself in, it reminds me more quickly to recognize that even here is the presence of God. Even here is the divine wisdom guiding you and holding me sweetly in that beautiful way. So how should I be then becomes a question that begs a little bit of reflection. It's a good thing for us to ponder after we leave today. Who am I? And not only who am I, but I love it when I hear people say, who and whose am I? I can give you the quick answer. Because I'm an ordained minister, so I know the answer to that question. I can tell you who you are because I see you. You are the beloved in whom God is well pleased. Never forget that. And as urgent as I feel that message, I know also that in the way I relate to those words, I don't think about it that often. And so I believe we need reminding that we are the beloved in whom God is well pleased. So how should we be? It almost makes it a bigger question, doesn't it? And again, from my ministerial perspective, I would say the answer to the question, how should we be, is that we should be rooted. Rooted is our theme for this entire year, our personal theme here at this center. And I want us to remember again and again that we are rooted in spiritual principle. We are rooted in spiritual practices. We are rooted in spiritual truths, and we really remind ourselves again and again, and we come together to reiterate it and to expand it and to the way it can stretch our consciousness to larger concepts of what God is. We are rooted in love. And so what I want to be on a daily basis goes beyond what I do and who I meet and what I say. What I want to be is that person who returns to love again and again and again. That's what spiritual practice is. Ralph Waldo Emerson, Ernest Holmes, loved Emerson. He discovered Emerson when he was a very young man, and it began to solidify his own spiritual philosophies. And if you're listening for the first time and you're new to this teaching, he's the founder that more than 100 years ago started putting this teaching into a structure that works. So Emerson said this: the only person that you are destined to become is the person you decide to be. Now, when I look at it from that context, it throws sort of a different kind of light on the topic, because then it reminds me how much I am in choice over how I perceive all the little tiny tidbits of my own life and how I perceive the lives of others around me, how I perceive my relationships with my family and loved ones and all the people in my community and beyond, how I perceive the world. Who will I choose to be becomes an important step in the journey of our becoming, because in that regard, what we see is that nobody is a victim of their circumstance. All of us have equal opportunity to heal our past and to forgive the things that we thought we experienced or the way we perceived those things as a child. We look for ways to see our experiences and the story of our life in an upgraded way, because everything we've been through has brought us to be who we are right now. And there is more. So we look at the way we're telling those stories. And I love that idea of forgiveness as something different. We've been talking about it this month. You know, it's not, it's more about acceptance. And I always fall back on that quote from Emma Curtis Hopkins, a beautiful Christian mystic of the 1800s, who said, if God is forgiving, we must be for receiving. So we are looking very specifically at the way we can look at our past experiences that challenged us and maybe were horrific. Can we look at those experiences and see that what we are invited to begin to receive is a bigger story, a broader story than just the difficulties of it? And I rather like that element of looking at forgiveness as accepting that, you know, we got to do the work because each of us is just doing the best we can right where we're at. And my work, the work that bears the fruit in the expansion of spiritual understanding in my own relationship, and this is true for you as well, my work is mine to do for me, and it is not about trying to change or fix everybody outside of me. That can be tricky, especially with family. Plato, think of Plato hundreds of years before Jesus, the time of Jesus. Plato said, "Be kind. Everyone you meet is fighting a very hard battle." This is wisdom, to just acknowledge the hardships that each and every human goes through in this journey of life. But I like it best the way Father Greg Boyle spoke these words. And remember that Father Greg Boyle is that tremendous human being who started Homeboy Industries in Los Angeles and has taught gang members, former gang members, how to live together peacefully and how to rehabilitate their lives. And he's so successful. He's a model for the entire world. Father Boyle said, "When we are able to embrace our wholeness with each other, then our divisions tremble." Ooh, I just love that image. You know, when we can take a stand back and see that there is a wholeness, a connectedness going on between all of us, when we see that wholeness, our divisions, our separateness, our tribal fierceness against each other, it trembles things. And I think of that way that a trembling, like in an earthquake, can break down a building. And I love that idea that when things tremble and fall apart, then in a divine way, they can be brought to order in a much finer way of fitting. Sometimes I think it feels harder to, I have thought in the past that when we feel like we're alone, life seems a little harder, and that's why we're drawn to community. Community, especially spiritual community, attracts people who want to be with other people that think similarly. And what I notice is, we don't think all that similar. We don't even agree on the principles and the practices. You know, we have all of our own opinions about what all of this means. And this is a faith that has no problem with that. We are always encouraging people to take the little gems, the threads of truth that speak to your own heart, and apply those things in your own living. But I have decided, rightfully so, I've had an opportunity to make such decisions, that feeling alone in life is a state of mind. And when I had that revelation, it was just freeing to me, because then it made me realize I don't have to ever feel alone. And it's interesting that I don't. I love the way being spiritually anchored over time and with the cumulative effect of spiritual practice allows you to feel like you're always connected to something and to other people and the way that life is intended to be. So what a great statement when Emerson said, who will you decide to be? You know, I turned it into a question. Who will you decide to be? And I think that I would even extend that into a little assignment for your takeaway today, and that is for us, each of us, to look at how we will manage the challenges we encounter in our personal lives this week. So we can know there will be challenges. Sometimes the challenge is just getting out of bed in the morning. But how will you decide to be this week? Sometimes the turf is a little rocky and the way is a little rugged. So the who am I and how do I want to do this? And would it make a difference to remember that I am the beloved in whom God is well pleased? You are the beloved. Can it make a difference just to recall that short statement? I was at a Gourmet for God event last night. I see most of them didn't make it today. Thanks for coming. There are a couple of us here. But I was at a fabulous Gourmet for God event last night, and I believe it was the best bidding wars on the table last October when we do the bidding. It's a silent auction, and you get to bid on these social events that all involve food. That's why we call it Gourmet for God. And it turns out it's our best fundraiser, and 2 or 3 people work really, really hard, and the rest of us just get to, purchase things and host events and do the fun side of it. Thank you, Juliana and Kendra and Reverend Susan, for. Were you pointing or raising your hand? Got it. No, I was talking to her. I think she must have been pointing at you. I thought, okay, are you involved in that committee too? Don't you do enough around here already? Anyhow, I went to this fabulous, it was a really good Gourmet for God event. Diane Carter had what do you call it? Crab? Oh my gosh. Oh my word. So, it's that thing where they just dump the giant crab legs and corn on the cob and sausage and potatoes and, oh my goodness, and shrimp. It had shrimp in it. Oh my gosh, we ate till we couldn't eat anymore, and then there was dessert. But while we were sitting around the table, we were having a kind of a lively discussion about things that push our buttons. And someone said something about, what really is hard for me? It's when we have shoplifting in the thrift store. When there's been shoplifters in the thrift store, I find that it was almost like she didn't say unforgivable, but you could read it all over her. It's like she loves this church, and I do see that it's hard for people to understand that why anybody would mess with a church, because the karma alone is got to be scary, But at any rate, I felt myself getting a little riled up, and so I leaned over, and she actually was sitting right next to me, so I probably got right in her face with all my ministerial authority, and I said something to the effect, you don't have to quote me to correct me, I'm going to just say it my way. And I said something to the effect of, well, we do have judgments about things like that. We do. We all have judgments about that. And then later, as I'm going to bed that night and thinking about all the things I had to do this morning, I thought, well, isn't that interesting? I had a judgment about her judgment. But here's the thing. One time, someone asked the Dalai Lama, what do you do? Your Holiness, you're a human being. What do you do when you feel contempt? What do you do when you feel disapproval or judgment, or you have a strong opinion about something that's going on? I can't believe anybody would ask the Dalai Lama that question, but he had such a good answer. I'm glad it was written down. Your Holiness, what do you do when you feel contempt? And this is how he answered. He said, it is when I feel contempt that I practice warm-heartedness. It is when I feel, you have to notice it, right? You have to catch yourself having the judgment. You have to at least notice it in the review when you're thinking later about what happened. You notice it. What do? It is then that I practice. And see, that's what we're talking about all year when we're talking about being rooted in your spiritual practices. It means that we pull those spiritual tools and we use them to help us move through those challenges that life presents from time to time. That is when I practice warm-heartedness, he said. See, that is spiritual practice in action. That is when we take advantage of the immediacy of a situation and use the spiritual tools. So it's not that spiritual practice, we do it so that we arrive finally one day at some enlightened place of living. It's not like that at all. It's more about the becomingness of life, that we're always in motion. So one of the things I did this week was I dug out some old notes I took at a conference I attended with David Rico as a profound workshop leader. I'm not even sure he's still living, but it was like in the 90s. And this was one of those people that just, he'd be teaching something and then all of a sudden he'd break into some long poem, and he knew so much poetry. Just he spoke from his heart and he had it all memorized, but you could feel it. Oh, he was such an amazing teacher. And he is most known for his book, something like How to Be an Adult, and then he wrote one, How to Be an Adult in Relationships, and he's just this fabulous human being. He had 4 practical steps to spiritual growth, and I want to give you this today. These are the 4 steps to practical spiritual growth according to David Rico, and they are sequential. They need to go in order. The first step, he says, is we should develop a reverence for the natural world. That is a part of this teaching. We talk about this in one way or another. Reverend Susan is reading the reading, and she says, every blade of grass, every grain of sand. This is that we look at all of how everything works in the universe, and we understand that there's wisdom there that we can apply in our own lives. So we develop a reverence for the natural world, and so that we can see that wisdom, that we can grasp it and use it. But I think that the really sweet truth of the matter is, he didn't say this, it's just my observation, I think is true, so it probably is, right? Is that I think nature is a good place to start, because it's easier to see that perfection in nature than it is in people. I think that we are less judgmental. If Mother Nature throws a whopper of a storm at us, we don't have a judgment that she shouldn't have done that, right? If a human throws a storm into our life, we got some opinions and judgments. So I think there's some brilliance in starting with just seeing how God shows up in the natural world. And then secondly, he said, once you've done that, it's really helpful if we really make an intention to befriend the shadow side of life. In other words, how do we make peace with conflict? You never have to like conflict, I promise. I will never like it. I do get a little revved up sometimes. I handle it well. Well, at least, I'm not afraid to get involved in it. I don't know that I handle it well. But we look at the shadow side of life so that we can look at what scares us. Now, this rings the echo of the words of Dr. Ernest Holmes that we look at the discordant facts in our life. Look at facts in the face. Don't bury your head in the sand. We are not positive thinkers like in a Pollyanna way. We are positive thinkers because we understand we have choice, and that as we make those choices, we can renew our minds and transform our lives, and therefore we change our thinking and we change our life. And this is just the theme of what this teaching is about. So we want to take a look at the shadow side. By the way, that is where you bump into a fuller experience of compassion. I think it's always wise to remember that. But then he goes on and he says this: if you have reverence for nature, and if you befriend conflict, then you are ready to liberate yourself from duality. Liberate. Free yourself from the chains of living in a world where you only see pairs of opposites. It is really valuable for us to recognize it's not as simple as there's good guys and bad guys. Life is not like that. There's more going on. There's happy and sad all in a same day. There's dark and there's light in every 24 hours, unless you live in Alaska or somewhere. But the idea is that whole yin-yang, that there's a movement in life, and that things come and things go and things happen, and we laugh and we cry, and all of it is normal and natural. It totally reminded me of that fabulous Rumi quote. I haven't said it in 100 years. I'm old. Rumi said, beyond the idea of wrong thinking and right thinking, beyond that, there's a field. Meet me there. Meet me in that field. And I noticed that in leadership, bringing in the third minister, it's like we all see things really different ways. And so I want to do it this way. He thinks we should do it that way. And now she's standing quietly in the back because she's earning her wings still, I think. But we know we all see things in a different way, and so we have to constantly be going to that field. And by the way, we're doing that beautifully. We had our first prayer meeting this month. I'm so happy. It was really such a joy for ministers to come together and pray just for you, just for this spiritual community. It was a wonderful experience. And finally, the fourth thing that David Richo says, we are now ready. Once we have developed that appreciation for nature, we've taken a look at the dark side, we've liberated ourselves from good and bad so that we can see the whole, because, you can't, when you see opposites, you're separated from any ability to see the whole. Now, then, once you do all those things, you're ready to share your love and kindness with all. Share your love and kindness with all. I think that with all part is the hard part. I can share my love with many. Sometimes people make it hard to love them. But what I see David Richo is inviting us to recognize is that we can't withhold our love from the few that don't think the same way that we do. We can learn to be really present with people who have different opinions and different views. And in fact, I really think it's helpful to be curious, to actually desire to know why they think the way they do. You'd be amazed what you're going to learn if you take that risk. For many years, I was, as a young married woman, I was a Bible student, and we belonged to a very black and white sort of fundamental Christian faith, and it was fabulous. I have such great respect for the years I dedicated myself to that path. And part of what attracted me to that path was how upsetting the world appeared to me when I was a young married woman I was in my 20s, having babies in a world that looked really scary to me. We were still worried about the Vietnam War. There was also all this racial social unrest, and the world was just beginning to make some of the big changes that we're really dealing with in a much fuller way now. And the faith that I belonged to believed that we were living in the end days, and that we were so blessed because God would have a time limit to how long he would allow such wickedness to prevail on the earth. And I easily saw all that wickedness, and we were comforted. And the people in that faith that were what we called brothers and sisters, I loved them. They were definitely good people. And I too was right there with them, waiting for that scripture, "Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord." And we were waiting for that day, and when God would cleanse the earth. But something happened to me in those years that I was dedicated to reading the Bible regularly and diving deep and attending meetings and having big discussions. I continued to grow spiritually, but not in alignment with that faith. I began to see that a vengeful God didn't fit what I believed anymore. And I had to make a break, and it was hard. And I wasn't sure it was the right thing to do, and it was obviously the right thing for me to do, because I had a lot more spiritual growth, ways I wanted to expand my spiritual possibilities, not ever having in mind I would end up being a minister. But here we are. So the reason I tell you that story is because it feels to me like we, as a part of this great, interesting, unstable world that we are living in, it feels to me that we are in a similar position. That everybody's pointing and blaming and wanting some vengeful God to clean up the mess, or some good guys to put on the white hats and save us all, or get rid of the guys wearing the black hats, and all those whatever metaphors you want to attach to it. It's like half of the population, at least in this country, half the population still wants the other half to come to their senses. Right? And it doesn't matter which half you're on. It's just the world we're living in right now. Oh, the other thing that tickles me is that I'm noticing, I don't notice it here at church as much as I do out in the world, but everybody thinks if you don't believe like they believe, that you believe in some conspiracy theory. And again, it doesn't matter which side you're on. It's a conspiracy, and that just makes me giggle. But here's what excites me. Here's what I've been talking about for quite a while. I'm hearing more and more people waking up and saying, "I don't like how I feel. I'm angry all the time." I'm hearing unexpected people going, "I can't watch that same news show I've been watching." I am hearing more and more people saying, "I'm not sure what's going on, but I think I'm really judgmental. I'm disappointed that everybody didn't vote the way I thought they were going to vote," or the opposite of that. And so I find this to be really good news, because we are learning that there is value in all of life. And in the same way I came to a point in my life that the image of a punishing God no longer fit my belief, we are all rising to see that we can't keep being angry at each other. We are waking up to our own contempt, to our own disapproval, to our own judgments, and yes, sometimes even to our own hatred. And I think it's important for us to recognize that and to know that that's not bad. It's a sign, it's a call for us to practice warm-heartedness, as the Dalai Lama said it. Practice is like, think of it like rehearsing. Think of it like you're warming up for the big concert or the big sports game. we practice and we practice using those tools until it becomes second nature for us. When we feel the conflict, we dive more quickly into the tool bag. Father Greg Boyle said this. Oh, my God, this is a great quote. People aren't wicked. They're just strangers to goodness. People aren't wicked. They're just strangers to goodness. I have to believe that. You don't have to. I have to believe that in order to do the work that I'm called to do. And so I would just remind you, it's really easy to stream the news that you prefer. It's easy for us, all of us, to collect facts. If I had more time, we'd play a game and see who could find something on Google first, but we're not going to do that. It's easy for us to collect facts. But I want you to remember that the algorithms that we deal with in our lives are not designed to be bad for us. They're designed to help us. Yes, they help the vendors and everybody too. But they're designed to make the things easier. So your computer understands what things most interest you. What articles on this topic would be favorable to you? And you know what's interesting is brain science is telling us now that is exactly how our brains work. That our brains are designed to capture the things that will align to our beliefs that already exist, to prove that we're right. Right? So the algorithm of our brain, we don't even think about that. But there are patterns out there, and it doesn't matter what search engine, you could Google, you can Bing, you can Opera, or whatever you want. It's designed to help you, to help pull things up more quickly. So here's a story. Here's where I'm going to end this morning. I have not told this story in years. I'm not sure I've ever told it here and I've been here a while. There's a story that sort of haunted me all week until I could find it. The devil and one of the devil's cohorts, an evil cohort, had found a place where they were a little higher than the earth, but they could look down on humankind. And they were just watching, and they happened to see a man who was walking just his path of life. And the man catches something, his eye catches something on the sidewalk. And he bends over and he picks it up. And they see him examining it very closely. He's looking at what he found. And so the devil's cohort says, "What has he found?" And the devil says, "He's found a piece of truth." And then the devil's cohort says, that can't be good. What should we do now?" And the devil said, "No worries. We don't have to do anything. He is a human, and he shall make of it whatever he likes." We're making the story. And each of us believes we're collecting truth and facts that we can verify. And yet, from a broader perspective, from that higher look, or when we go deep in the roots of truth, we see a bigger picture. So the time has come, the walrus said, to speak of many things, including pretty shoes, if you remember the poem. The time has come for us to look at that. What will you make of the truths that you collect? My beloved Teilhard de Chardin wrote once, "Above all else, we should trust the slow work of God. Right? God's timing is different than ours. The cumulative nature of life changes everything. So as we consider all that's been said, the question, how should we be? Let's be rooted. Let's be rooted in truth. Let's be rooted in love. Let's be rooted in life. That's all. So take a deep breath. And hold your truth sweetly. For you know your own values. You know what matters. You know God itself in a way that nobody else does. And together, we know that we are the beloved of God, in whom God is well pleased. So we just feel that love this morning. We feel that sense of the presence of God right where we are. Here in this sanctuary or listening from afar in our own sacred space, we feel that love of God within us. It is the activity of life. It is the movement of the vibrancy of that life within us. For there is something about us that is becoming. There is some way that there is an aliveness in our physical body that circulates all the goodness of aliveness that keeps us moving, that allows us to heal what ails us. We know that presence of love within us is a power that is greater than we are. And so in this moment, we open ourselves, our hearts, and our minds to recognize that presence of love. And we know that then there is something that happens energetically, that love ripples out in every direction. And it touches other individuals. It has a healing vibration that goes with it. For love is the greatest force in the universe. So I feel that activity of life, that movement. I know it is the richness of spirit revealing itself to us again and again. I know it is that call for us to notice the ways in which our lives are good. Our lives are very good. It is a way in which the miraculous nature of life becomes visible to us when we seldom appreciate it, but we can see that the blades of grass are unique and different and thriving. We can see that the grains of sand are too numerous to count. We can know that we're more precious than the birds that soar in the sky, that we are created in the image of love. Therefore, we are loving beings, and we have this power to create love wherever we go. So we ask ourselves tenderly and gently, who am I to be? How am I to show up? And we know that the answers are always calling us back to the deepest spiritual roots, to the greatest truth of all life, that there is something in this universe that is greater than we are. It is a power for good, and we are a part of it. We can call on that good. We can call on that power. We can call on that love, and it is there to guide and direct our lives in every way. So I say, thank you, God. Thank you, life. Thank you, infinite spirit. For as we recognize these things we begin to understand only love is real. And so it is with a heart filled with gratitude that I simply release these words into that dynamic law that brings all things into form. I let it be, and together we say, and so it is. Amen. Amen.
Grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. Everywhere I look and every face I see is love reflected, shining back to me. I just give thanks for all these simple things, the joy and peace that gratitude brings. That's why I'm grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have. I am so grateful, grateful, grateful for all the love that I have.
All right. Thank you, Bradford. So we are grateful. So now's the time to celebrate the abundance of our lives and the abundance of our community. So we have our drop boxes and tithing and contribution boxes in the back of the room on the way to Papke Hall out in the bookstore. We have the QR codes that are on the newsletter in your information guide. So we have many, many ways for you to contribute to our wonderful center. So let's say our giving affirmation together. I live in a consciousness of good. Divine love blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God, and so it is.
Please rise for our last song. Oh, 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 it feels so good to be alive. Sing that with me. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. I ain't thinking about my problems. I'm living now. I'm living now. And I ain't gonna worry about the future. I'm living now. I'm living now. So put your hands up if you feel like having a good time. Put your hands up if you're sharing love with all. Raise your cup if you're hopeful for tomorrow. Put your hands up if you're ready to have some fun. And sing it. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life left in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life left in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life left in the moment. Feels good, don't it? Feels good, don't it? Only got one life. Live. It feels so good to be alive. Oh, it feels so good to be alive. Oh, it feels so good to be alive.
All right. Doesn't it feel good to sing that song? And to dance to that song. So, all right. So let's say our closing affirmation. Repeat after me. I live consciously. And I know that I am growing with every experience. And so it is.
Thank you.